Hey guys, Magus here, and first things first, I apologize for not posting Friday because I had some stuff come up, but that's alright. I forgot to do it, but I figured I do a bonus video for you guys because I am fucking tired of this shit. Now, recently, we've been finding out in the last few years that Sony has been trying to protect children from bad things, whatever that means, and they have to censor it. No. Why? Now, the reason this was brought up was because Doki Doki Literature Club, a game that I personally enjoy, since I'm a big visual novel guy these days, thanks to Darkstream, much obliged to him. But regardless, here's the thing. They censored a scene where there's red blood and put black blood. Now, Savalto, I believe his name is, the guy who created Doki Doki Literature Club. Almost said Doki Doki Panic. Fuck, this ain't no Mario video. This guy said it was not a big deal to him, but in reality it is, because here's the interesting part. Having grown up in the NES era, being as old as I am, almost 38 years old at this point, I recall that, and everybody notes that Nintendo was strict on their censorship, we know the infamous Mortal Kombat and things like that, And that's the crazy part. They would censor stuff like that. Nowadays, the reversal is opposite, as you can see from the picture. Nintendo Switch, we get more, they're not censoring stuff, whereas Sony is. And it seems like they're targeting Japanese games. Ironically enough, Sony's a Japanese company. And this is part of a bigger rant that I want to do down the line, where there has been this sort of xenophobic bias in some gaming media, and I have seen that since, I've talked about this way back in the early days too. Way fucking back in, the 7th gen, when I started making videos and such. And it seems like, why are they targeting these games? Now, let's look at something else. Let's look at the vastly overrated pile of shit that is The Last of Us 2. A very fucking shitty game in my opinion, and I have reasons for that, but that's another tale for another day. But let's point out something, not about its quality per se, but, well, it's vastly overrated, but more of its, more of its hypocrisy, where there is a very explicit sex scene, I believe, in that game, because I watched the stupid ass story to it, and it's badly written for all accounts and purposes. But again, I shall not get off track here. I am, though. Anyway, there is a sex scene. Do they what's the word? Do they censor it? Nope, they don't. They don't censor the motherfucker. They don't censor it. But yet, these Japanese games are getting censored. Why? Why the fuck is that happening? I mean, from what I understand, there's a scene in Devil May Cry 2 that is uncensored in all the other ports, except for the PlayStation 4, where they show a bare ass and it's covered up. What happened to the days where, you go look at Xenogears' fucking intro, and there's a woman with her bare ass sticking out? That's what appealed to Sony to me back in the day, where they were the ones, when I during that gen, I do enjoy some N64 games, but Sony, the PlayStation 1 is still probably one of my favorite consoles of all time. Switch is close up there, though, so we may see that change. But the PlayStation 1, for me, was so mind-blowing because we had all these mature fucking games. We had Metal Gear Solid, we had Xenogears, we had Final Fantasy VII. We had these games with very mature themes, and yet they weren't censored. They told very complex stories, very mature stories, yet, they weren't censored. And then, at least through the PlayStation, part of the PlayStation 4 era, from what I understand, they weren't censored as much. So what the fuck, Sony? I know you're not going to listen to me. I'm a small little channel with crappy editing, but fuck it, man. This is getting ridiculous with your editing. Really, why Japan? It's, again, goes back to my point. Is there some sort of bias against Japanese games? Because, quite frankly, I find Japanese games to be a lot better. Not all of them. There's shit Japanese games, don't get me wrong. But I find a lot of Japanese games to be far more interesting and better than Western games, and that's maybe a taste thing, but that's just me, and I just find it horrible. Sorry, I have roofers at the house if you hear the banging, but that's the problem that I have. That's the fucking problem that I have with Sony. Why censor blood? This is getting ridiculous. And quite frankly, Doki Doki Literature Club, the funny thing about it, it's not even a Japanese game. It's a Western game in a sense. So what the fuck? You are targeting games that look a specific way, and that is pissing me off. And usually like when people say, oh, well, they censor games from Japan and all that. Well, I always argue back, Japan has their own censorship laws and things like that, but fuck, this is ridiculous. I don't understand why it's those specific games. Think about it. It's those specific games, nothing else. So, with that, guys, I got nothing else to say, but this is utter bullshit. So, with that, guys, Magus out.